Today for our Senate Education Committee meeting. Today we are going to start off with meeting our master teachers for the state of Kansas for this year. We're so glad to have you here with us. Did you want to give a little bit of an overview? Did someone want to give a little bit of an overview of just about the master teacher program? I just need you to come to the microphone and please introduce yourself and turn on the microphone. So push the button in the middle of the microphone. There we go.
All right, I think I got it finally.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. My name is Joanne Brewer. I serve as the Dean of the Teachers College at Emporia State University. The Kansas Master Teacher Program was started at Emporia State in the 1950s, and we're recognizing now the 2023 class. And so the Kansas Master Teacher Program represents teachers who've been in the classroom long term and are just doing extraordinary and outstanding things in the classroom. So we're privileged to be able to honor these individuals here today.
And could you share a little bit with us how they get selected?
I sure can. So the nominations come in from a variety of individuals, and then we actually have a master teacher selection committee that goes through and views those particular materials, and then these 7 individuals are selected, and they represent all different areas of the state.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So first up, we do have Kristen Anderson. She's a 5th grade teacher at North Fairview Elementary School, USD 345, Seaman. So if you want to come on up and just say a few words to the committee.
I've been teaching elementary school for 21 years here in the Topeka area. I started in Auburn-Washburn for my first 15 years, and then the last 6 years have been in the Seaman School District, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. So.
Would you share with us one of the things that really motivates you to get up and get in that classroom every day, even though this is spring break?
My motivation every single day are my students, and knowing that for a lot of them, I'm their best shot. And they're coming to school with all kinds of issues and things that they're dealing with. And if I can make their day even just a little bit better, or their future just a little bit better, then that motivates me every day to keep going on the good days and the bad days.
How wonderful. Thank you for being with us. Next up, we have Kirsten Bangurter, English teacher for Dodge City High School, USD 433 in Dodge City. Welcome to committee.
Well, thank you. We didn't know this was going to happen, so. But we are definitely good at thinking fast on our feet, since we do that all day long. For 30 years, I've been with Dodge City Public Schools. I've taught 4th grade, 5th grade, and 9th through 12th grade English language arts. And Dodge City has a very different population. We have about 80% second language learners, most of them Hispanic. And so there are very unique challenges to teaching, particularly English, in Dodge City. We also have a really great regional dialect I like to call redneck. And so even the native English speakers need a little bit of help with proper English. But like Mrs. Anderson, I could not imagine doing anything else. I get to work with teenagers every day who make every day unique and different and make me laugh. Sometimes I have to turn my head to do that. But I know you all have to work with adults, I'm sorry. But kids really make every day go by really quickly, and in such a fun way.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Gerald Braun. He's gifted education at Hayes Middle School and High School, USD 489. Hayes, welcome.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us and recognizing us today. Like you said, I'm doing gifted education. This is my 23rd year teaching. I started the first 16 years. I was doing middle school math, 7th grade, all day long. Loved it. Kids don't love math as much as I do, but hey, that's okay. But the opportunity came to switch to gifted ed, and that has really like reinvigorated my desire to be back in the classroom. Their challenge of me, their excitement and their energy, and has really motivated me to keep driving forward. Talking about motivation to be in school every day, I quit teaching twice because I could have an easier job, I could make more money, I could have flexible hours and vacations when I wanted to, and I came back twice because it was the kids. I missed the kids, and so now I've decided, I guess that might be where I just want to stay with the kids because they make life better. Thank you.
And Matt, show us your shirt.
Oh, proud Kansas educator.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, next, Matt, I don't know how you're going to beat this, but we have Matt Christensen. He is the social studies teacher at Blue Valley Southwest High School, USD 229, Blue Valley Schools. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I teach juniors and seniors American history and American government, and being here is like the greatest thing for a government history teacher, and being with you all and I just had my picture taken at the podium just a minute ago because it's like, can't wait to go back and show my kids and explain to them the power of how much experience you can have and how much you can learn from the process. And my passion is to take the students I have in my classroom and take them outside the classroom and have them see their world connect back to their classroom and have the opportunity for them to see that they're part of a larger piece, that they're not just inside their school, but turning inside out so that schools and communities can work together. And when you do that, amazing things happen. Community gets to see how amazing our teenagers are, and our teenagers get to see how amazing our community is. And that's such an awesome exchange between the two of them. And so I just love helping people figure out new things. And it doesn't matter at what age, but I'm really thankful for the opportunity to be here today and to speak to you. And I can't wait to take it back and share it with my people. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Melissa Hall. She is a STEM technology teacher at Fort Riley Middle School, USD 475, Gary County. Welcome.
I've been teaching for 32 years.
I
started teaching when I was 5.
Step up a little closer to the mic. There we go.
I just love teaching because I love learning. And when one person teaches, two people learn. I don't know what else you would like to know, but I love it.
Well, tell us a little something that you're doing as far as in your STEM technology classes.
I actually teach 4 different classes along that route. I have computer science that I teach, automation and robotics, flight and space, and then I also teach design and modeling. So we learn the engineering process all together. I knew nothing about robots when I started, so I have learned a lot from the kids. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Martha McKay. She's a physical science teacher at Emporia High School, USD 253. Emporia, welcome, Martha.
Hi, thank you for having all of us today. This is my 19th year of teaching. I taught for 12 years at a small 1A school outside of Emporia at Hartford, and then I made the move to Emporia High 7 years ago. At Emporia High, I absolutely love teaching because I get to teach the highest of the highest and what they consider to be the lowest of the lowest. And my favorite thing is to take those kids that have no self-confidence and very little work ethic and turn them into kids that can be successful and are successful. So that's why I became a teacher, and that's why I stay a teacher. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And last up, we have Maggie Wolken. She's a kindergarten teacher at Chanute Elementary School, USD 413. And Chanute, welcome.
Well, thank you for having us. I am Maggie Wolken, and this is my 19th year in education. I taught 3rd and 4th grade for 3 years, and this is my 16th year in kindergarten. What makes me go to school every day? The kids. You know, in kindergarten, you're teaching them the social, emotional, and those academics that are the foundation to their learning path for the rest of their lives.
So give us an interesting story about recess and the learning that occurs at recess.
What we can do about recess. Well, you know, at recess, you're not just worried about the play zone, but Recess, you're also thinking about the gross motor. Can they climb those stairs to that playground equipment? Do they have the ability to swing on a swing? And then do they have the social emotional skills to play with one another?
And the book is right. What you learn in kindergarten, you're going to use for the rest of your life. So how wonderful that we have from that kindergarten through the highest grades, the senior in high school here today. And if you want to stay and see a little bit more about what we do, today is an informational hearing, but we are going to work a bill at the end of that. You're welcome to stay. If you want to go see our museum, which is the Capitol, spend a little bit more time with that, you're welcome to leave for that as well. But committee, that does end our master teacher presentation. Okay. Oh. The House is not meeting right now because they're still on the floor. So you could go watch them. So if you go up to the 4th floor, then you can go and watch them from the balcony. But we do want to see you on the Senate floor in 45 minutes. Okay? All right. Thank you. Committee, now we are going to have an informational hearing on farm to school. You know that was one of those budget items that we talked about as far as the budget for education. And so we'll start off on that informational hearing with Barb Depew. She's the Farm to Plate Project Manager, Kansas State Department of Education. And thank you so much for being here today, Barb.
Well, and thank you for the opportunity. Myself and partners today all would like to thank you. So I think we have some slides. And first of all, I'm going to be starting by just telling you a little bit about Farm to School and what is Farm to School. And so in our world, then our Farm to School area actually started with the 2008 Farm Bill. And this is where there was establishment for geographic preference, buying local products. Then in 2010, the Child Nutrition Reauthorization Act then established the Farm to School grant program. And the State Department of Education, our child nutrition area, has been using those grant funds to help further the farm to school efforts in our programs. And so each year there's opportunities for grant funding. So a little bit of history through our state agency is that we did apply for those grants. In the first opportunity, 2014, we received funding for a Department of Education grant to be able to conduct regional trainings across the state of Kansas to educate regionally about the farm to school area. Then in 2018, my position, I was a past child nutrition consultant in the Department of Education, and then my position as the Farm to Plate Project Director was created. Then in 2020, then we did get subgrants that I'll share a little bit more about in a little bit. And in 2021, we also got funding for the team nutrition area in our programs for Team Up for Local Food Recipe Challenge to create local recipes. And also then we received funding for some summer projects so that we were able to go ahead and create different types of projects across the state, including tower gardens. We had Kansas Pork as a partner. We had Kansas Corn as a partner. We also worked with farmers market areas. And in 2022, most recently then, we have 12 subgrants that we have been giving out to our school nutrition and child and adult care programs, and also our summer program sponsors. And we also have a formula grant, which is a 4-year grant project that we are able to go ahead. It's newly funding our position as a Farm to Plate project coordinator. So I now have an assistant to work with in the area. And also we have an opportunity still pending for a local Foods for Schools funding that we are hoping to be able to add local proteins to our programs. Thank you. So this is what Farm to Plate looks like in our state, in our school programs. This is a healthy plate, the famous chili and cinnamon roll meal that we have then across the state in a lot of our programs. So our goal with Farm to Plate is to cover the plate with local foods. So all of these areas of the plate then can have local sourcing that goes with that. So we, again, purchasing could be from local farmers, it could be from our actual vendors, it could be from manufacturers, then schools and actually communities have their own gardens that we can get products from there, or local farmers and ranchers. So all of these programs then can be areas that we can purchase our local products from. So this is a picture. I hope some of you might recognize some of the areas then on this as far as some of your areas possibly that we have grant funded. So they have been tower gardens, they have been greenhouses, they have been ag projects, community programs. We also have childcare programs that have created kits across the state for maybe local bread making. It could be also areas that we might have a backyard chicken coop or a backyard garden. So great opportunities even for the youngest. And then the most recent grant that I just spoke of, we're focusing on local grains. Kansas is the wheat state, and so in our local grains, we actually show on the state here where the wheat stocks are is where our grantees are, and where the mills are, the picture of the mills, is where then they can get local flour. We can buy it across the state. Most of the flour produced in our state is Kansas flour products. So we are able then to go ahead and increase the use of flour for our local products, but also for from scratch so that they're looking to do more baking and cooking in their programs. The formula grant that I mentioned, that grant funding then has enabled us for the next 4 years, some great things that are happening across our state is that we do have our coordinator to help us then, but we're going to be working with some regional bus tours across the state that we can go ahead and take our child nutrition staff to the farm to actually see where their food comes from. Also creating a database, culinary training, and partnerships then also with our neighbors, with Nebraska and Missouri, to have farm-to-school institutes. And so these institutes then are going to be education opportunities for our schools, our child cares, as well as the producers then to get together and learn about how they can work together for local products. And then we will have a campaign for activating local food through a Harvest of the Month program. And I mentioned the other project that we do have then too will be the local foods for schools. This is in the protein area, so looking at local protein. So we're hoping for some great opportunities. This is all, again, through USDA funding that we are using this money. So we hope with all of this that we can continue then to educate our kids about where their food comes from, to work with the communities to support our local agriculture in the areas, to be able to have local products in our meal programs across the state. And next, Tom is going to show and tell us about their areas. Thank you.
You. Okay, so we've got Tom Buller, Executive Director for Kansas Rural Center. Tom, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Baumgartner, members of the committee, for your time. I think I've got some slides coming up here. All right. Well, I'd like to start off by introducing myself. My name is Tom Buller. I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas Rural Center. The Kansas Rural Center is a small nonprofit that focuses on food systems and communities, creating sustainable markets for farmers, creating environmentally beneficial farming systems, and creating resilient communities. And Farm to School really plays into that. And that's why I'm here today to talk about some of the work my organization has done in the realm of farm to school. In 2014, our group published a report called Feeding Kansas. This was the culmination of 2 years of study across the state, interviewing people in all corners, interviewing hundreds of Kansans about their food system priorities. And one of the key opportunities we found with Kansas's food systems was the opportunity to build local food systems And that allows us to strengthen local economies. And one of the key levers for doing that that we identified was institutional purchasing. So things like schools purchasing locally, hospitals purchasing locally, things like that. The real benefit of these local food systems, and there's a range of estimates on this, but the real economic benefit, I should say, is that there are multiplier effects. So if those dollars go to a Kansas farmer, they get spent in that community rather than going to California or Mexico or wherever the imported products would come from. And so there are ranges. The low end of that range is that the multiplier is about 1.73. So for every dollar spent in a community, there's $1.73 of circulation of added value. So we feel like farm to school is a key economic opportunity for communities. So why local food and school meals? As I just mentioned, it's a great way to support local farmers and businesses. It can increase school meal quality and overall program participation. So if we're talking about fruits and vegetables, those are going to be the freshest you can possibly get. It increases kids' willingness to try new fruits and vegetables. Some of my colleagues are going to talk more about the activities people do, maybe getting the local farmer to come in and talk to a classroom or getting the classroom to go visit the farm that gets kids willing to try new things. And it helps support overall school wellness policies and school board priorities for community health. So what is just a couple examples here, maybe. I think we got a pop-up there, so I can't click forward. I'm going to the next one. Some of the work we've been doing to support that, so the Rural Center is really about farmer outreach and education. So we've focused on helping farmers understand the school procurement process. So here's a slide from one of the workshops we do. We've actually got one coming up on March 28th in Moran, Kansas. We've done them online over the past couple of years. I'm excited to do them in person, but help farmers figure out how they can start selling to their local schools. What are the processes they need to know about school food procurement? What is the nutritional breakdown of school lunches? So that's some of the work the Rural Center does. Some of the other work we do, again, really focusing on that farmer side. We're doing an ongoing or an online farm to school resource hub we're building out right now. We have a video series. I was hoping to have a video clip for today, but it wasn't quite done being edited. So those should be up by the end of the month. Touring producers who sell to schools and providing them, walking other producers through the process of how to do that. We're also doing ongoing trainings. As I mentioned, there is the one in Moran, Kansas, and we're continuing to do that. K-State Research and Extension just received what's called a Regional Food System Partnership Grant. That's a 3-year grant that's going to continue to support the work we're doing in training farmers on how to get food into schools. So with that, I will pass it over to my colleague, Rachel. Thank you.
We've got Rachel McGinnis-Millsap coming up. She's Vice President of Programs and Policy for Kansas City Healthy Kids. Rachel, welcome to the committee.
Thank you for giving us time. I have to admit that I immediately went back 20 years because I had Mr. Christensen as a teacher 20 years ago. And at the time, he was one of the favorites. So many thanks to all those teachers that are teaching for multiple years. It's a lot. Okay, so I work with KC Healthy Kids, and we work within the community to close health gaps. And what that looks like, and I'm going to talk just about a few of our programs today, is that we work in local food and programming. And we believe that kids in their communities need a strong local food system. We help farmers grow thriving businesses and teach kids and families the value of growing their own food and purchasing locally grown food. We also believe that our good food policy team knows that the kids in their community needs to be easier to get healthy food. And we engage advocates like yourself and decision makers like those in our communities to promote policies that put healthy food within reach. So,
How that looks in the state of Kansas is Casey Healthy Kids houses our Kansas Food Action Network, and we work with lobbyists like Little Government Relations to work with you all and get information from the Capitol back to us and help educate about what farm to school is, what our local food policies are. We also house the Greater Casey Food Policy Coalition that works around the Greater Casey Metro on both sides of the state line to work on things like Kansas sales tax on food, planning and zoning, and fair food shopping. Within our local food programs, we do align with National Farm to School Network. You might have recognized this slide before, but what that does is that breaks up farm to school in gardens, education, and local food procurement. In the first 10 years of my work in the local food system, it was working in the K through 12 world, so working with the kiddos, doing things like on-farm, hands-on work, working with school gardens. You know, I was known as the garden lady that came in with snacks, and we got to play in the dirt, so it was really fun working with different kids every day. We also work with farm to ECE, and what that might look like is more recently at Casey Healthy Kids, getting farm share boxes into early childhood and education centers when they did not have access to food during the pandemic. So some of the limitations where they got their food were limiting on the amount of milk they could get or fresh fruit and vegetables that they had access to. So being able to reroute funding and pay farmers to get their food into ECs was something that was really rewarding and really helpful to our local farmers that needed to move that food around when places closed. We also house the Casey Food Circle, which is a group of farmers that use sustainable practices and organic. They do an Eat Local Expo every year. This year it's on April 1st in Johnson County at JCCC. And we also work with regional food system partnerships and local food promotion. A lot of our funding comes from the USDA. We just recently submitted the 4th Farm to School implementation grant. We've gotten 3 of the previous ones. It's a really competitive grant. We're looking forward to, if we are awarded, working more in the K through 12 world before. Or again, sorry, as we've done before. We can't do this without partnerships. I just put this up there, and this is not all of our partners that we've worked with. We have gone into multi-year relationships with a lot of these folks and working together with them to do things like Split Log Farm, which is an urban farm in KCK. And that's a picture of those kiddos there planting a lot of stuff that will be grown and then eaten in their school across the street. Community Housing Wyandotte County is one of our partners there, but as you see, that's not the only one. And it is integral that we work together. One of the reasons, because it is competitive to get some of these multi-year grants, but also it helps with those partnerships to enrich our different missions. I'm going to share just a couple of examples. This is Split Log Farm there in the back. It's a really good representation of our local food system because in the background you can see there's a farm, and then the kids have packaged, they've washed, they've had the food service director come out and look at the guidelines that they have for washing their produce. They've packaged it up and now they're walking it across the street to deliver it to their food service so that it can be served at lunch. So it's really rewarding to work with these kiddos and share what it truly does look like from farm to plate. There it is. Whoop, thank you. There they are, just being super cute and excited about it. So another example of farm to school is on the procurement side. It is the food service directors making it a priority to purchase from local farmers in their area. And Gardner Edgerton, they have a really robust farm to school. It looks different from KCK Public Schools. A lot of it is education, but she does a lot of stuff in the lunchroom where kids are able to taste test recipes and then vote for the recipes that they want. She also does a lot of community outreach to get the families on board and to connect farm to school with their community and the farmers that she buys from, as well as just getting excited about where their lunch is coming from, posting on the weekly calendar of what food is locally procured and getting folks excited about that. In our farm to early care, there's lots of education that has to be done to whomever is ordering the food because sometimes they're the ones ordering, cooking, and then serving the food. So a lot of times the preparation is something that's really important to put into farm to school and something that's really exciting because it's a little difficult to get that big butternut squash, like this previous picture, and then get it ready for either 60 kids or 1,000, depending on the size of your school. So that's something that's also very important with farm to school. And education and technical assistance needs to be supported with resources. That is one of the farm shares that we provide our ECEs for a good year or 2 years when the pandemic was raging and our local food system was, showing where it oftentimes is broken in some ways. This is what we were able to reroute to kids and their families and really introduce them to what local food is, what that looks like, where you can get it, and how beautiful and tasty it really is. So really getting those local food eaters for life. So I'm going to switch and get more into the statewide policy, and this will just take a few minutes. But one of the things within this presentation, in addition to Farm to School, is that we really want to show where our strengths are from the state. These are different ways that the state can, different types of state farm to school policy. So there's seeding, there's growing, and there's sustaining. And Kansas is really, we've done a lot of work in the seeding and growing. And what we're here for today is to talk through what that sustaining looks like and maybe where there are opportunities where that can be supported. So like I said, in that green category and then the maroon, we've got different things that we've done. There's proclamations, there's task forces that has been created. We have a farm to plate work group that is supported by Kansas Department of Education and Barb back here. We have got different resources like the Eat Local KC map or Shop Kansas Farm. So there's different databases, and I know that the Rural Center has some resources for that. So we've been there. There's different piloting of farm to school programs. We've all done different stuff with funding that we've been awarded. A lot of that aligns with that National Farm to School Network kind of three-pronged approach. Where we're wanting to head, though, is that sustaining part. And we are really wanting to help sustain a farm to school, a statewide position. We want to help that be something that goes on in a longer than the grants that are supporting it. So that is one of the things we're here to really beat that drum about. There's Kansas Farm to Plate Project Coordinator. It's federally funded. We want that to continue on. Implementation of pilot programs to create more district level supports through coordinator positions would definitely be supported by a statewide coordinator or director. And one of the biggest asks, oh no, that's okay. I don't know if it made it on there. One of our biggest asks is that, we, through our Kansas Food Action Network, we are wanting to push a farm and food council that's statewide, and that is where farm to school would reside, a farm to school coordinator, or how we could funnel resources and help with that. So the biggest thing that we want to push for is that if we are going to gain momentum and get farm to school and a statewide presence, that we would be able to house that under a food and farm council that's supported statewide. So thank you so much for your time. I'm going to pass it off to Panta. It's going to give you some more details and examples of what farm to school looks like in Kansas.
So we've got Panta Flores that's here, and Panta is the Experiential Learning Specialist for Lawrence USD 497. Welcome.
Hi, thank you all for having us. So yeah, my name is Pantaleon Flores. I'm the Experiential Learning Specialist for Lawrence Public Schools. That means that 60% of my job is work-based learning coordination and 40% is farm to school, and I'll be here to talk about the farm to school part, and I should have some slides here too. We're actually going to go ahead and start with procurement. So we spend $9 million every year on food, and this year we're aiming to purchase about $40,000 worth of food. So if we take Tom's numbers that he gave us, the very conservative estimate of economic impact, we're looking at around $70,000 of economic impact from just buying. If we were to, and this is one of my goals, to get up to 10% of procurement, that's a $1.5 million economic impact. So that procurement part is incredibly strong and incredibly impactful and powerful. And I just threw another one on there because, I was a farmer before I came into this, very much farm to school, literally. And if we were to get to 25% local procurement, which would just be amazing, that's a $2.5 million economic impact. So there's a lot that can go into this, and obviously we also invite the farmers into the schools to talk about it. Some of them have even served at the actual lunch line. I think one year they made baseball cards of the farmers, and the kids loved that, and they handed them all out. But yeah, that's the procurement side. I was also a teacher for 6 years, so I very much enjoyed the educational component of it. Because I'm also the work-based learning coordinator, I also include the work-based learning continuum in this because they married so well, those two roles. So we have a garden at every single school this year, so we're very proud to announce that. And we have production gardens and learning gardens. So really, the teacher can kind of style it how they want to. So for example, in our learning gardens, that's like garden clubs, garden work days. Our FACS classes actually did a program where they took as much produce as they could from the garden, put it together into meal kits for families in need, and then we ended up making this wonderful bilingual cookbook. And it's actually in all of our middle school libraries, and it's going to be in our Lawrence Public Library soon too. So many things you can do educationally with this, so many directions teachers can take. It doesn't have to be something mandated to them. They can create within Farm to School what makes sense for their school. Some of our really awesome production gardens, so we have kind of two different angles on this. So one is a donation garden, so they're donating all their produce to wherever they decide needs it most. They actually hire students, and that's our one exception. They are run by a nonprofit outside the district. All the other 21 schools are kind of under my purview and the garden coordinators. At another one of our middle schools, they sold nearly $13,000 worth of produce at farmers market to 2 grocery stores, and also to one of our local restaurants that does a lot of farm-to-table stuff. And they hired 8 workers, and so that money then went to their pay. And so, you know, here we are on the work-based learning continuum, career preparation, right? Because for me, I really see this as a way to really promote agricultural CTE and create pipelines for our future farmers, right? And we know we need those. And so, you know, both of our high schools have greenhouses. So they're perfectly well set up to pair well. One of them does a plant sale every year too. So again, another way that an educator's found to help bolster their own program. And we do have a lot of students who are interested in agriculture. And so I really want to provide them that opportunity through Farm to School. And again, you know, really looking at work-based learning as a potential entry point into agriculture. So just quickly, my last slide here. What am I asking? What would I love to see? What's an example? How could this work? I would love to see Farm to School for every Kansas kid, every single one of them. Not just for that procurement side and helping the local economy and getting them extremely fresh, delicious, healthy food, but for those educational components, for those moments that they have out in the garden that you know Rachel was talking about. If we were to have some kind of state allocation, I just ran some numbers just to give you an idea of what we could do. And I'm very much focused on not just getting resources for where I'm at, but really looking to the rest of Kansas. And so if we were to, for example, hire a full-time pilot person, as we've talked about before, locate 5 rural districts, put me full-time at each one of those and a garden coordinator at each school. So typically we're thinking of like schools that are, one high school, one middle school, one elementary school. That's a $450,000 allocation. So, honestly, not a lot to impact 3,500 learners. And so when I'm looking at this, I looked at the free and reduced numbers, and we could specifically target those rural areas that are in that 70% or higher, because there's quite a few of them, and put that there. And that's kind of what I would love to see. Even though I know I'm USD 497, I have family throughout Kansas, Fredonia, Mankato, Garnett. So like I got people everywhere, and I want all Kansans to have this opportunity. So thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Okay, committee, that is the last of our 4 presenters. What questions do we have for them? We'll start with Senator Petty.
And this would be a question for the last presenter, because I'm familiar with having farm gardens at schools, and always the issue is the maintenance during the summer. So how have you covered that with your experience?
Yeah, so I don't like to do things top down. I've encouraged all my garden coordinators to find out where their time allocation should go. And I very much encourage them to, think about that during the summer, because that fall food, that work is done, as you know, that work is done in the summer. And so they're allowed to allocate that out, but I'm also encouraging them to work closely with PTOs and local businesses to do garden work days. So like we already have a foundation that has businesses that are paired with those schools. And so I give them that short list. I say, hey, call them up, see if their team would be willing to come out in the summer once a week. You get 4 businesses, you've got your help, And so a lot of creative ways, I'll say that. But all of our garden coordinators are paid, and so they can choose to use their labor hours during that summer period.
Senator Straub.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm proud to announce my parents were doing farm to school way before it was cool. That's also one of my questions is, are the students like actually out there hoeing potato mounds like I was as a child? And are the students taking the produce to farmers markets, or are they selling directly to the community? Like how does all of this work in like Lawrence schools? I know how this works in my district, but it's quite different.
Yeah, real estate's a little bit different where we're at. So dirt-based learning is what I like to call it. We're going to integrate farm to school into K through 5. So it'll be, I'm not adding that extra thing to a teacher's plate. It's your science unit looks like this. I go through all their curriculum. I figure out how to match it up and get them out into the garden. So a lot of it is much smaller scale. So we're thinking like boxes, like, raised bed boxes and things like that. But it's so different school to school. And so they're the production gardens like I was talking about. So those ones, they're out there pruning orchard trees because they have a bunch of pears out there. It's like their main one. They just finished redoing all of their strawberry beds. So that school is really, really into it. And that's one of our middle schools. And they sell to grocery stores, one restaurant, and at the farmer's market too. And so I definitely have a lot of coordinators looking to emulate that part too. Yeah.
For Barb, on one of your slides in your slide deck, it indicated working on that producer database. So talk to us about that. So if a school district is wanting specifically to kind of increase that.
Right, and that's exactly what we hope to use the producer database for. We currently work with Shop Kansas Farms also in the state, so that is a website. I know that Tom has a producer base also, so we are just gathering as much information as we can from anywhere so that when we do have contacts from our schools, that's usually what the call is about, is to find out where are the producers. So those connections are what our goal is to do. And so we hope to use that database then to go ahead and be able to make it available then statewide.
So you're with the Department of Education. And let me just say, every one of the presentations was very thorough. Love it, really do. How do school districts find out about what is going on? Because it's really interesting. We had a hearing yesterday, and so the representatives from USA, which is the superintendents, and ks.gov, the school boards, they talked about how they weren't familiar with some issues that school districts were facing. So where do you get support as far as trickle down to get that information to school districts to kind of incentivize them to get on board?
Well, we try to make our presence known wherever we can. We did have exhibits at the State Fair this year to promote Farm to School. We've done that for 2 years in a row. We also have the work group that Rachel mentioned too, so we have other partners across the state. Summer education that happens through spike events that are in the summer. Lots of times those are going to be held at rural areas or at areas that have some type of a farm or farm to school area with that. So we just take advantage wherever we can to educate. And on our website, from Child Nutrition and Wellness's website, we also promote and give a lot of spotlights. There's Kansas Can Awards, and there's a local food category for that is done annually also. We have October in Farm to School Month. We have a crunch-off, which is a Mountain Plains crunch-off. That's something for everybody to participate in. So events, I think, are where we currently, in recognition.
Okay, so, and is the producer database, is it up and running?
No, this is just getting started. So we just received this funding then in the early part of this year, and so that we are just getting started. We've had one for several years, but we're continuing now to be able to use it and do more with it now.
Thank you very much. Committee, any questions? Yes, Senator Sykes.
Just a comment, I love this. My past life, I was a personal chef and caterer, so I love farm to table. But when my kids were in elementary school, we started a program. I was a parent sponsor where we had a garden, and just seeing those little light bulbs go off as kids taste fresh basil for the first time. So I just would say thank you, and this has come a long way from when my kids were in elementary school. I mean, it was K-State research and extension that we were getting there, so just kudos, and I love this.
I think it was an excellent presentation. I would like to hear from Senator Dietrich and Senator Erickson, who served as superintendent and building administrator. So talk to us about food service, because I think that oftentimes, you know, a lot of food services, we acquire lots of things that are in big cans, and it is stocked there, and then we pull it out. And so we're really working on promoting the fresh food and that local. So talk to us about a little bit, share your expertise on what some of the obstacles are for making sure food is delivered to those students.
So there are some regulations that you have to be aware of. And
Is your mic on?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'll step up a little closer. There are some regulations that we had to be aware of for accepting fresh food from vendors. And so those are the kinds of things that, you know, you'd try and do it. In my district, there are so many schools. We'd target one school in particular and try and make sure that we focused on that school to get those fresh food deliveries from our local vendors in our area, not the mass producers that pull up the truck. And so that's worked out really well. But, you know, you do have to build partnerships, and you do have to have somebody who's attending to that, because it is a lot of work. But it is certainly one of the best things that we can do for our students.
Senator Erickson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I was principal in Wichita, and so when you have, you know, we had our own district facility, which we didn't have a whole lot of say as an individual building as to what our menu was per se. I will say, I think one of the big challenging things just that I saw from experience is one, vending machines, because kids will pump that money in and get their snacks or chips and you know, and then forego maybe a healthy option in the cafeteria. And we had what we called a sharing table, and inevitably, I don't know how you get middle school kids to eat fruits and vegetables. I mean, the oranges and apples and bananas would all end up on the sharing table, and so we'd be like, okay, what are we going to do with all this healthy food? And so I think the more, I love the approach of the more we can get them, to Senator Sykes' point, to try. If we just get you to try and see what they like, because they don't know otherwise, because the population of students that I dealt with probably doesn't have a lot of those options at home, so they just don't know what healthy food is about. And so I think maybe just more education and just encouraging those healthy behaviors. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So I do want to just again thank you. I felt every one of the presentations were wonderful. Really excited about the enthusiasm for this, and really having it expand in the state. It's right there. You can jump right in.
I would just like to, again, thank you for your comments, but just encourage you when you ask how do you get the kids to eat it, the color of the healthy food. I just want to encourage you to look at hashtag Fueling KS Kids, which is from our Facebook area. That's where some of those other success stories are out there, and you can see all the color that goes with the healthy food. So it's out there, and we're trying to make more of it. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Committee, that ends our informational hearing. At this time, I would like us to turn to House Bill 2375, and that was the hearing that we had yesterday on establishing that temporary candidacy for baccalaureate and master's social work licenses and providing requirements and fees thereof. And so again, it is allowing those institutions in our state that are doing the virtual social work programs, allowing them to get on board with regard to that licensing process. Do we need any more background? Okay, I do want to introduce an amendment for that. And those of you that have been on all of your other committees today and yesterday, you know what this is, and that is simply that we're going to change on line 5, page 7, from statute book to Kansas register so that we have, should we need it, a vehicle. So I have a motion on that? I do from Senator Gossage. Do I have a second from Senator Dietrich? Is there any conversation on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? The amendment passes. We are now back on House Bill 2375. Senator Gossage.
Madam Chair, I move that we pass House Bills numbers 2375 as amended favorably for passage.
Okay. Motion. And I have a second from Senator Dietrich. Is there any conversation at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Committee, tomorrow we do have two hearings lined up. House Bill 2092, that is reapportioning the districts of certain members. It really is addressing a change that's needed for Washburn University. We also have House Bill 2060. Now, 2060 does currently reside in the House substitute for Senate Bill 83, but it is there only as a proviso. So we are going to go ahead and have that hearing tomorrow because I want to make sure that we have a Senate position on that particular issue. So thank you for participating, and we are adjourned.